Soldier on, my good countrymen. Keep fighting for your children now. Keep fighting for your land.
Hey guys, I've been quiet on mainstream world events lately, and I've done that with purpose. It's far too frequent and easy at the moment in our world to have rapid rate opinionism. We see it constantly. A new conspiracy comes up, a new world event comes up, and everyone's an activist, and then it blows over, and next week it moves on to the next thing. And I admire the passion of those wanting to do something, but I also have grave concerns that the way society has gone, we feel the only place to do something is to channel it into social media and into the screen, into the digital matrix. This alarms me. It alarms me a lot because our sovereign power is way beyond there. It's a tool. It's a powerful tool. I built a whole off-the-grid community in East Africa using social media. I'm a great one to talk to about the power of this tool. But when this tool, which is all it is, becomes the only space for you to express activism, we have a problem. But then you have an even bigger problem when technocrats feel that they can silence the voice that comes through the platform. This is getting to an extremely unusual and dangerous place across the board because humanity are forgetting what certain services are for, be they technocrats or be they government. I don't agree with everything that is said, and I definitely don't agree with how much of it is said online. But I do know that whoever is saying it has a right to say it. And for things like Facebook fact-checking to come into place, we move into a very dangerous space. We move into a dangerous space because you're allowing technocrats and their conglomerates to determine what is true and what is not, and to silence alternative opinion. The reality of the matter is, algorithms are creating mental illness. And algorithms are designed, they are very simple computer programs, but using very complex aspects of human nature, using the stimulus of the screen, the stimulus of the hormonal system, the flashing lights, the programming that we've all had to turn away from the glorious reality of God and move into this diet of false light which is fed to us by one another. Those algorithms are there to make money. They're there to put a chain around you and keep you looking at the screen so they can sell advertising so as you go and buy some pointless shit that you don't need, so as you can feed the pain and the sorrow that your life has because you're spending too much time at the screen that's selling you it. Algorithms are doing that. And those algorithms have also begun to create extremely unbelievable behaviors inside humanity. And the reason that fact checkers have started coming around is to try and quash something that they're not willing to be honest about. They want to silence certain persons with certain ideas, and some ideas are very far-fetched out there, but they have a right to have the idea. They have the right to hold that opinion, and they have a right to publish and speak about it. But the problem is that the technocrats dare not tell you, I'm sorry, but we've messed with everybody's head using a whole chain of problems, from the technology you're using, the phone in your hand, to the algorithms we're using, to the sale of things using advertising on those algorithms. We've really messed a lot of you up. And thus we need to start having some sort of rules about these computer programs that we are using to control and manipulate you into spending more time on the screen. But they never say that. What they say is, let us just block certain groups who are saying that sound a little bit too far out for our liking. The reality is that these certain groups, if they were sharing their opinions in a more stable manner, it would be very hard to be able to go around and block them. But there's an instability coming inside humanity we have outrage culture, we have this rapid rate opinionism, and that instability is coming from being centered in the electronic screen, which is forever changing. Whereas nature is full of subtle, gentle, prolonged changes. You can watch a sunset for hours every day. It's calm, it's slow, it's your natural state of being. If you go ahead and you decide to watch a screen instead, Facebook videos, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's endless. In an hour you don't even know what you've seen, you can't recall the second, third video. It can go from police shootings to coronavirus to puppies wearing nice clothing. Your brain is overloaded by it, but they want that. They need the money for that. They need to make money from you doing that. But that messes with the person. Then when that person comes across, or those persons, or we, come across topics that are extremely emotionally stimulating, extremely outrageous, things that raise morality in you and say, I've got to do something about this, you can't expect the communication to go well, and it does not. We see very irate and bizarre communication. We see an inability to get points across. We see it in the far right where people are doing it. We see it in the far left. The liberals are going really, really bizarre at the moment for my liking, looking at this side of things. It's really becoming strange. And a lot of it's coming because of the tech. It's because of the technology. But the big technocrat dare not tell you we messed you up with our algorithms. So then we can look at what's going on in the world with things like lockdowns and the authoritarian aspects of those. And we can look at the relationship between that and technology, and there is something to this. There's something very important to this, because a government is there for municipalities. A government is there to make sure you have roads, to make sure that you have sewerage systems, to make sure that the people can live their lives. The government is there to ensure that you are safe and protected via a police force to uphold laws that we have collectively, through our evolution inside society, agreed we need to be able to live as we do in union with one another. It's not there to tell you what to do. A government was supposed to be there with limited power. It's not there to be your mother and father. It's there to manage municipalities. Thus, what we need to look at is, how does democracy work in this technocratic age? And the reality is, right now, both sides hold the solution and both will not speak about it, because both want to control and to profit. If we want to have a true democracy, separated from central banks, separated from all of the playboy wars that they have all over the planet that play out however they want to do it, all of the arms trade and all of this vile stuff that doesn't belong to our species but belongs to a minority of weaklings who cannot overcome their flesh and get into the spirit. If we look at it, and we have this huge divide between persons on the planet at the moment with coronavirus. Some people don't want to wear masks. Some people disagree with lockdown. I, coming from Tanzania, can tell you that the government lifted lockdown and did right. My colleagues, my friends who are working in Uganda, in Malawi, they are posting on Instagram dead children, starving children, because lockdown is happening. These children cannot eat. They can't get to the malnutrition clinics. In Kenya, people were beaten to death by police enforcing the lockdown. How bizarre is that? Only a curfew, not a full lockdown. But still, that's what happened. The leader of Tanzania, President Magufuli, made a wise decision. And he said, I'm not doing this to my people. I'm not going to lock them down when my country faces malaria, TB, HIV. And he even called out the West and the WHO and the World Bank who funds them. He said, hey, if you care so much, forgive our debt payments this year and we'll use that to protect the people. But of course they didn't. But this is what that president stands for. They affectionately call him the bulldozer. He just goes for it. Now, many of you know he tested goats, he tested motor oil, he tested papaya for coronavirus, and they all came back positive. There's scientific consensus that argues that you can't feed false data into a machine and expect something back, but I only mention it to say this is his mindset. This is where he stands. He understands the situation at hand. He understands how his country is used by external markets. Recent years, he sent the military to buy every single cashew nut in the country so as he could sell them at the market price that he determined was fair for his people, and in doing so he made an extra $100 million for the country. This is a man who does get things done. He did not lock down because his economy could not sustain the children that would starve, the people who would starve, just as they are in Uganda, just as they have in Uganda, Malawi, etc. Innocent children dying, not registered. You can't treat every economy like a Western economy. Yet here we are with draconian lockdown measures and people wanting them. But at the same time, we have people who are totally opposed. So why don't we combine this technocratic problem with the government problem and fix it? We live in an age where everybody has technology and they're voicing opinions, but the opinions are not getting heard. And how do we make them heard? Well, you turn the constant usage of social media, the constant logging into these electronic devices, into television sets, into phones, into laptops, and you turn it into a true diplomacy. You say to the people, okay, you're telling us that you do not want lockdown because you understand that the economic fallout will be unbelievable and the damage it will do. Let the people vote. Let them vote democratically, individually, using an electronic signature, which we know can be done by looking at cryptocurrency. We can do this. Let them vote via that system. Let them take the vote. And if you have a split vote, if you have 60% of people saying wait for the vaccine and carry on with lockdown, let them lock down, because those who want to move around and keep the economy going, who are willing to take the risk for something that doesn't seem to hold a great deal of risks, should have the opportunity in a democracy to do that. If you are not going to get immunity by herd immunity, you're not going to get immunity by injecting the virus into you. It's not going to happen. And thus, we can have a split world. We can have 60% saying they want lockdown, they want masks. We can have 40% who vote and say, I don't want that. And then we can allow one another to go back to our lives. You stay locked down. If you're vulnerable, we'll make sure you get your food, we'll make sure we help you, but we're going to keep this economy going. Otherwise, you're going to regret it. Because the amount of liberties that are being lost at the moment are tremendous. I have spoken for years about the want to centralise power in our governments and to centralise world governments. They're forming unions, African Union, East Asian Union, Asian Union, European Union. And then when the time comes, you can unify unions. This is not far-fetched. Every human leadership has wanted to do that, and it has benefits in some retrospects when you think about it. It does have some benefits. But at the same time, if you look at what is happening here, we are moving to a cashless society. We are surrendering again more liberties. When the war on terror came and the very dubious 9/11 event, we surrendered liberties left, right and centre. And many don't even realise how many they've surrendered. I recall all of it very consciously, everything we have lost since 9/11 when it comes to freedom of movement, etc. It's a colossal amount of things, but it's gone in under the rug. Now we have it happening again. The implications of a cashless society. There are companies just rejecting cash now. What does that mean? It means that you can monitor people. It means you can constantly track them. It means that if you're creating the money, which central banks are doing, they don't even need to keep track of how they're creating it if it's not in paper form at all. All you need to do is to be able to monitor the persons. Then the next problem you have is, what happens if they don't do something because it's not democratic, that you don't want them to, and you control the way by which they survive is on a card that's electronically linked to your systems. Systems we have no say in. And thus, a true solution, a true democracy to all of this would fall on using technology for a democracy. But it's not happening. But people are trying. There's stated that there might have been more than 1 million persons in Berlin in a recent protest at the weekend. More than 1 million is a big number, and that was global as well. Now, are they completely right in what they're saying or not? No. Are they completely wrong? No. But the important thing is, and the deeply important thing is, that people are there saying, I'm not happy. And we can't just say that this is democratic anymore, because it's not. If there's so many people turning out to say they are unhappy and cannot be heard, and the mainstream media brushes it off as if it was just some far right-wing persons who had a skirmish with some riot police, which was a tiny fragment of what happened on those protests, then we have to start asking questions about why that is. Because the reality of it is, we're being locked into a belief system that we have to live this way. We're being steered like cattle that it has to be this way. And there are many times one must ask the question, do our leaders have immeasurably more wisdom than what the persons they're leading do? Look at the state of many people inside our world. We struggle. We struggle deeply. We think we can run the world better, but most working class men are hooked on nude women on a computer screen, and yet they think that somehow that they would run the country better when the temptations are immeasurably bigger. No, the problem's an internal one with each individual human being. And thus we must look at how often do we lie, how often do we manipulate, and how often is that happening and trickling down from the top. And if we keep looking at this and we keep drilling into this, it gets to a point where we have to say democracy is each individual voice being heard. Because no longer does voting to select and nominate persons to be in charge work. Because you can see from this pandemic, you can fill a room with 10 people, every person will have a different viewpoint on what is going on. Every single person. And that's because there's such a gap between a voter, between the working class, the middle class, and the ruling class. There's such a gap, such a disparity that there's no trust. They don't know what is correct and what is not. They just do not know. Nobody quite knows what's going on. And what that exposes, I've said before, is that gap. And the way to bridge that gap is the same way that you deal with technocrats editing on a platform which is there to communicate with one another. You take that technology and you take that gap and you smash them together and you create the solution. The solution is placing votes of great importance in individual hands. And everybody has access to it. There's no way it wouldn't be that case. You could give people time. Take time, speak with your friends, speak with your family, rest in it. There will be no advertising trying to sway you one way or the other. There'll be no algorithms trying to sway you this way or that way to get advertising and send you down a rabbit hole and down this rabbit hole. You will just have time with your loved ones to evaluate the information in front of you. And then you will have, just as easy as you send a WhatsApp message or a text message or an email, you will cast your vote. And that collectively, the system will be monitored by you, the people, and the vote will be decided upon how we go forth. Oh, if it's a split vote, okay, then we democratically make sure that you have the right to move around because it intelligently makes sense that someone keeps the economy going, whilst these persons who have concerns stay in a lockdown and you can assist them with the things that they need in that lockdown, which means that you can profit from it because you can work to help those people at the same time. This would be a true democracy. But right now, we are steaming away from democracy here. We're in a very bad state of affairs. Draconian lockdowns, not acceptable in this time. I feel for Australia. It's like a laboratory. It's like they're experimenting with them. We've seen this happen with many countries. Look at what it's doing to the countries that don't get reported on. The people who I'm part of a network of posting children that are dead, starving, dying in their arms because of lockdown. Because of a virus which really isn't killing that many. It's really not when you look at the figures. If you go to Africa, why would they be forced to lock down by the WHO? It makes no sense. And if you just want to top it all off, if we're really going to say that this government actually does care, if the WHO cares, why is the discussion about masks and vaccinations? Why is the discussion not about boosting immunity? Why is the discussion not about getting the extremely profitable but highly unnutritious and damaging foods out of the supermarket? The sugar-laden, the white flour-laden, the things that dull and suppress your immune system. Where's the discussion? If they stand in truth, because that is scientific consensus, you cannot argue with it. If they stand in truth and they really want what's best for the people, why aren't they telling people? Why aren't they telling them how to make sure their immune system is strong, how to eat well? Because it doesn't fit the agenda of what I am witnessing unfurling on this planet right now. And God bless those leaders who dare stand against it. God bless President Magufuli who dared to say something is not right here. And God bless everybody who's out there struggling with this situation. But above all, it's time to take a breather and ask yourself, even if this virus, and I've said this before, I'd give anything for an extra week, 2 weeks, month, year, lifetime with a loved one, if it really is the case. But I also know that there's going to be no quality of life for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren if we keep going down this road where we allow government to make decisions without any democracy. And that's what this is about. It's not necessarily a discussion about is the virus good or bad. It's where we're heading. How is it being used to manipulate humanity into a state that we do not want to be in? Because I don't want my great-grandchildren to wake up and say, I don't agree with what this government is doing and I can't really do anything for all I'm voting for the other guy. They all seem to be doing the same thing. And because I don't agree with them, I can't eat because they've switched off my card because we have a cashless society. Because I don't agree with them, I'm not allowed to leave the country on an aeroplane. I'm not allowed to board public transport. In other words, because I don't believe with them, agree with what the collective is saying or what the government is saying the collective is saying using the hijacking of media, etc., then I am going to live in a class inequality. It's going to be basically, if you look at it in the correct way, class eugenics in the future without any shadow of a doubt. And that's why we have to start asking, more than protesting the system and saying, I want this system to not do this to me, I believe we have to start becoming sovereign, living sacrifices to God and start building the system that we want to see. Instead of asking the system that doesn't treat us well to treat us better, start demanding and building a system that will work for the people. And I guarantee you could effortlessly put individual electronic votes on world events democratically in the hands of every human being. Even the Maasai tribe video call me from the middle of the bush to say hello. Everybody can access technology. Everybody can be taught how to use it. And above all, that means that everybody's voice can be heard if we just re-engage how we use that technology. God bless, guys.